female entrepreneurs turned besties share on life, business, and the journey through the mess. Join their community with every new episode for connection, education, a few laughs, and the hype energy like a bathroom full of drunk girls at a bar. It's okay.
We're your friends now!
Hey y'all, it's Ashleigh.
Hey, it's Katie.
Hey y'all, it's Ben.
I thought it'd be great to start our next season off with like a real life example of kind of a recap of a lot of the themes that we've discussed throughout the way. And shout out to one of our listeners, Sheila, because she's actually visiting me in New Orleans right now. And she and I had the pleasure and honor of volunteering to walk in the Jeanne of Arc parade here in New Orleans, which always is on 12th night or January 6th, King's Day. When king cake season starts, that's whenever all you heathens around the country that ran to your grocery stores and bought them out when they first came out. There's a tradition in New Orleans that that's where hurricanes come from. Is that if you eat king cake outside of king cake season, that Mardi Gras season, that's the tradition.
So king cake season ends when Mardi Gras.
Yeah, you're not supposed to have king cakes, and it's a real thing. Like it's a reil thing. Yeah, and like especially with me growing up, like you'd like never saw king cakes in anywhere except during king cake season. Yeah,
I didn't know that there were superstitions with it. I honestly thought that was kind of like just a festive thing. Like you don't see little Debbie Christmas trees anytime except around the holidays. And I just assumed king cake was only around during Mardi Gras.
Yeah. No, I should have brushed up on that before I did it. What king cakes. But there's like tons of meanings around them. But basically it's essentially like the three wise men, the three kings that come to visit. And they, there's different colors mean different things. The fact that there's a baby, obviously the baby is baby Jesus, etc. But yeah, it's I love New Orleans. But there was just a horrible massacre. Well, I don't want to say massacre, but like terror attack that happened here in the city on New Year's Eve. And whew, man, it was heavy. There was a heavy air. And New Orleans is known for our laissez-faire, like let the good times roll attitude and partying like through life. Like literally that dancing through life song from Wicked, I swear, is like what the atmosphere is here. And it was just really beautiful to see. Oh man, even I don't know. I guess whenever I said I wanted to talk about last night, I didn't think about needing to set the stage of like what the somberness was also. But I just have to say, like, to all of my friends that listen to this in other parts of the country, thank you for texting me and checking in on me when you did, because opening my eyes on New Year's Day to literally like dozens of texts from people. At first, that was how I knew what happened, literally, was when I looked at my phone and everybody was blowing me up asking if I was okay. And I at first was like, why is my phone like alive? Like the markets are closed. Like this is the day I sleep in. Like, why is my phone blowing up? And then obviously, you realize what happened. And there was just a lot of emotions that flow through. And it's really like every single person that texts me really helped me stay grounded in gratitude and like the positive headspace that could exist despite the dark cloud of how loved and cared for and concerned for me and my family was. And so thank you guys for checking on me. And that that right there is just a perfect example. Perfect example right there of supporting someone from a distance. So yeah, so the city basically it was rough, man. And there were a lot of locals that were unfortunately like killed. Not that it matters difference, but you know, with the city being a tourist city, you know, is really impactful there locally too. So they did a memorial service, an interfaith service in the cathedral in Jackson Square. Wow. Absolutely stunning. The music they chose was beautiful. And the service was going on at the exact same time that the parade was lining up and
Wow.
ready to roll through the quarter. And this this crazy thing happened. They ended up needing a lot of volunteers for this parade because there were a lot of people that backed out and like didn't want to do it. And Joan of Arc is historically like she's the patron saint of New Orleans. There's a lot of symbolism and like there's stops along the parade route where different people sing her happy birthday, or there's a toast to her in the city. And we got to see all of that because we were in the parade. So like instead of only seeing like one piece of it, like seeing it along, it was so fun. But yeah, so they didn't have enough people, so we were able to volunteer and we got to wear these Cirque du Soleil capes, you guys. Like I live my best life. It was amazing. And then also the sheer fact that my team was like, heck yeah, I want to do that. Like I just love it. Yeah, so we were at the bar and waiting for the parade to go, and everything was, you know, kind of busy, all of these things, but every single TV was plastered with what was going on in the cathedral. And for a lot of reasons, right? But one of them also because we were going to roll after it was done. And then to see President Biden and Dr. Jill Biden there in attendance, it just was just like it's just surreal, you know, like just surreal. And what else was just incredible was like in the bar, like as soon as they got to the point where they read all of the victims' names, and lit a candle and brought it down for each one, like silence, like such reverence and respect. And like everyone like paused, and it was almost like this like rallying when it was done, that like we were gonna like walk a parade like through the French Quarter, literally,
which is a very like New
done.
Orleans way of respecting passing away, right?
I mean, yeah, like we literally like our second lines, like we do second lines after funerals. And now Joan of Arc is not necessarily a second line in parade because I mean it's Joan of Arc and her story, but and there's like such tradition in it and like continuing through. And oh man, y'all, like the energy. I've had the pleasure of riding in a few parades since I moved back, and I of course go to as many as I possibly can to attend. The energy last night was just, it was just incredible in so many different ways. It was so supportive. And just, I don't know, it's something that I'll take with me forever, like forever. But we literally walked through the barricades where like, you know, Biden and everybody else had just like gone right through and like paraded right down that street. And it's just beautiful. So I just wanted to share, about it because I know the media has done a lot with taking and twisting and doing. And there really is a lot to unpack. There really is a lot to unpack there. So,
well, I think if you're like for me, my perspective as somebody who has visited New Orleans once, but otherwise not spent a lot of time there, when you think of New Orleans, you kind of associate it with tragedy because of like devastating hurricanes, some of the history, obviously, people have suffered. And so it's almost so beautiful to see the way that people of New Orleans can live through tragedy time and time again and still come out and celebrate the beautiful parts of life and come together still. And like the way their human spirit cannot, like, you cannot beat down the spirit of New Orleans.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, yeah, man. Like, that's why I love it here. You just can't, it's undeniable. It's absolutely undeniable. Um, and I love that. I love that about us too. Thank you, Ashleigh. Thanks for calling that out. But yeah, have y'all ever had, because like it was really interesting. I know, like, it would never crossed my mind to like not do it, but like I also didn't want my daughter down there. Like,
Yeah.
in all honesty, like I also, cause one, it was like freezing. Like, well, y'all
Yeah, I
are
was like,
y'all are like in snowmageddon.
it was
Y'all, like above
52
you.
degrees.
It was like 32 with a wind chill of 27.
Okay, that's pretty cold with New Orleans humidity. I will give you that. That's pretty cold.
I had 2 pairs of socks, 3 pairs of pants, and 4 layers of shirt. And then and a heated neck thing. I had
Ooh.
heated things in here, and I had one of those like heated period patches on my bottom. So it was
Wow.
like I was like walking on a heated seat. It was amazing. I was like, as long as my butt doesn't get cold, I will be good. And it was so true. But yeah, it's but like literally, I mean, we were, dude, the bonding that happened. Oh my gosh. And the police chief, the freaking police chief, she's a woman. She's a woman in her mid-60s.
I know, I love her. I saw her speaking about, I think it must
Yes.
have been the parade that people are
Yes.
asking if it was going to get canceled. It must have been that one.
She came out. She came out and hung out with us and like pre-gamed with us. I got to shake her hand. I got to shake her hand and tell her thank you and tell her she's awesome.
Aww.
And like, that's what I'm talking about, you guys. But it was like so surreal, like standing there, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is like freaking history right here, like
Yeah.
right now, like happening right now. And like just to like make a decision with like every step that I was taking and like flare of my fire cape, you know, like just fuck you, you know, to all of that bad shit. It was just great. It was, I don't know that I'll ever have another experience like it. Well, actually, you know what? Fuck that. Because I can totally replicate that experience. I could totally replicate that experience in like in all things. And that's like the whole point of like what I'm talking about, like how it's how it's so everything in a bow. Everything in a bow.
It's focusing on and choosing to rise above the fear that others want to instill, and that like translates to a lot of things, right? There's people that want you to be afraid of success in business. There's people that want you to just submit to the 9 to 5, don't go out and build something on your own and put yourself at risk, that they benefit from you being afraid. And that is just so present in multiple parts of our lives. And to choose to say, no, I'm going to go dance in the streets. I'm going to go see my friends. I'm going to go build a business. I'm going to go live my life above the fear. Like, that's recreating that every day.
Yeah. And I also love to, like, whenever we sit here and we talk about like go out and meet more people, like if you're not finding your people like that, like just come visit me. Like just come visit me in New Orleans and go out to dinner. Cause I tell you, there are so many amazing conversations to be had out there. And like that collective experience with like strangers was so powerful. So, I mean, like there were a couple eyeballs that I recognized and didn't speak to, you know, last night on the route. But like that's the other thing too, like you don't even need to know someone sometimes to get that good juju. Like just like go to like a group experience, like Katie, that's like you're talking about like the Taylor Swift concert, like what that was like for you. Yeah.
I think there's something really powerful about the timing of that too, is like reclaiming it so quickly after such a tragedy, because the longer that it sits unaddressed in that way, like the more fear I think is allowed to come from it. And so for y'all to be able to do that partially in honor, like I think especially watching the service right beforehand, it's like they were obviously very front of mind for all of you. So it's like honoring them in the city that they were either living in or visiting that they loved a lot, but then also just celebrating your resilience, like Ashleigh was saying. Like the timing of that is really powerful.
Yeah. And we got a really long carnival season this year. Like Mardi Gras isn't until March 4th. So yeah, like a lot. And I think all of us, I don't know, I don't want to speak for the city as a whole, but I'm speaking for myself that like we know that's coming. You know, I mean, we know it's coming. Like we all switch our Christmas trees over to Mardi Gras trees. Yesterday. That's what happens. Like we change our Christmas lights colors. But yeah, I wish I wish y'all could have been there with me. I really do. And I'm so grateful though that I had other friends like there to experience that with. And like, we say it jokingly, like what a time to be alive, like so much. And like oh man, there were so many moments or just it was just great. Oh, so good. So good. And this year is like off to such a start. It really is. It's off to such a start. So, speaking of starts with this year and us going and doing, when are we going? We're going to talk about our resolutions, right? We're not letting this get away from us of the goals, because I want y'all to know, I went back and listened to that episode if y'all haven't. And because I like this pre-work. I like this pre-work of going back and finding things and listening to them again. And I want to do that. I very much want to do this. So I would like to do that late night episode.
Yeah, I would love to do that. So Brandon Thompson made a post recently, I think it was on Facebook, and he was talking about resolutions as a goal that we don't really establish a path to succeed on. Like when we do business planning, we usually say, okay, here's the goal, here's exactly how I'm going to get there, down to like what I need to accomplish daily.
GPS and 411, baby.
GPS and 411. But when we get to New Year's resolutions, and this probably has something to do with just how we're taught to goal set or lack of teaching to goal set. And it's just kind of like, I'm going to get in the gym this year. I'm going to eat healthier, like super vague goals with no path to success. And so when he posted that, I was like, dang, like that really resonated with me some. And so I thought instead of big overarching, like, this is what's going to happen this year, I figured I would really focus in on something small I can do to make a change like right away. And I am just going to share this just because I'm super excited that I figured out how to do it. But I was like, you know what? So as somebody who uses social media a lot in my businesses and just like socially, how I stay connected with friends as well as family, because none of my family is super close by, I am on social media what feels like 24/7.
Yeah.
Sometimes and most of the time it's fine, but I can tell sometimes I'm getting fatigued because like a mean comment that normally I would just ignore, I can feel myself get hurt over. And that's usually when like I think to myself, okay, close all the apps, don't
touch grass
for a little bit. Yeah,
go touch grass.
Go touch grass. And so that happened to me in the middle of a Sunday, so 2 days ago. And I was like, I spend so much time, I never really purposefully stay off the apps ever. Because I like to go and like mindlessly scroll and kill time, but then I also go to like do research for trending topics and things like that for using them in business. And then I also post, and then I have to respond to comments, and then I'm interacting with friends. And so in the middle of the Sunday, I was like, I wonder if there's a way to just block those apps off my phone for 1 day a week. Because I don't want it all the time. I just want it 1 day a week. So off to Google I went, I typed it in, and it was like, yeah, here's the super simple 3 steps to do it. And I was like, shut up. I was in the middle of a conversation on Facebook about asking people, hey, has anybody ever done this before? Like, what did you replace your time with? And I was like, I'm just going to do it. So in the middle of my Sunday, I started my New Year's resolution, which is every Sunday is now going to be 100% social media free. So no Facebook Messenger, like text, call, all of that is fine, but no social media on Sundays. So
I love
am
that.
I'm gonna do my best to I'm gonna thank you for sharing that with me, one, so I can be a good friend to you and support you in that by not pinging you on Facebook Messenger on
I will
Sundays.
not get it.
She won't even know.
I will have
I
zero
love
idea
that.
you've done it.
I
So
love
ping
that.
away so that you don't have to keep my boundaries in your mind.
Yeah. Love
Oh.
that.
So
Well, I love the PSA you just made then. So now my feelings aren't hurt when you don't respond on Sunday.
yeah. If I disappear on a Sunday, it is not you I'm ignoring, it's everybody. But like I said,
No, I
I
love
still
that.
want connection, but I think it's good because if it's a Sunday and you're trying to reach me and I don't respond on Facebook, it might make you go, oh, actually, I'm just going to call her. And then you know how it is when we call each other, we have like a great conversation that lasts an hour instead of
Yeah.
a 5-second Facebook message. So I think it's going to also help further strengthen my relationships.
Like actual connection, you know,
Yeah.
because like I'm like you where, you know, none of my family lives here and most of my friends are nowhere near. So I
Mhm.
rely on social media a lot for that like perceived connection because I feel plugged into people's lives if I'm able to
Yeah.
like see what they're doing or like peek in on chats and see what people are talking about and stuff or like feel included. But it really isn't the same as connection. So I love that you're doing
Mhm.
that because it's going to drive your actual connection on Sundays up, or it's going to be very easy for you to like take a breather if you want because you're not expected
Mhm.
to be there.
Yep. And I've heard so much about lately this idea of like dopamine flooding, and that
Yeah.
so much of our world, like especially our phones, but also video games can do this, certain TV shows and programs can do this, but they flood our systems with too much dopamine all the time so
Yep.
that we are less receptive to the dopamine from more regular activities, and that it's a good idea to have some sort of boundary in place so that you can kind of reset your dopamine systems for overall long-term mental health. And I think also as somebody that is kind of as somebody that people ask questions to, at least in the social media space, to model that it's okay to have boundaries and leave social
Yeah.
media sometimes
I
is
think
probably
that's
Wow.
probably like one of the
Yeah.
biggest things is like if you're doing it, you also give people permission and an example of like you can leverage this in a huge way, whether it's for personal gain or business gain. And you don't have to like it doesn't have to run your entire life. It's okay for you to still reclaim your time.
Oh my God. Oh my God, Ashleigh. Thank you. Thank you for setting this example. Thank you
you
for
are
doing
so
these
welcome.
things. Thank you for being that and doing all that. I love that we also just put all of that together. So that way that framing is around what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's great. I
I'm
mean, like,
super
that's
excited.
genius. Yeah, because well, and like what I hear, right, as somebody who like goes to you for social media coaching, right, is exactly like what Katie just said, like permission. And I spend so much of my life going through and basically faking myself into thinking I'm just testing a new theory instead
Mm.
of deciding to do something different. And so the way that I see that is leveraging your brain to test it to see if it works. And then if it does work, then you're going to turn around and tell me it does and tell me to do it.
Yeah.
So like, that's great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I will say just having I had 5 hours of my day left on Sunday when I blocked the apps. The number of times I flipped my phone open just out of like I'm sitting here waiting for my kids to finish brushing their teeth and just looking at my phone and being like, "Oh, well, there's really nothing to do." Just putting it down and just sitting there and staring at the wall, and like I was like, I should probably find something to replace that with because like long term, just sitting there isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the like muscle memory is crazy. And I was semi-conscious of it, but not how bad it is. And obviously, so I've got a 13-year-old daughter who is not allowed on social media yet. And that's the one advantage I really feel like as a mom being on social media is that I am on the up and up of what is going on. Like, you're not going to convince me that Snapchat is harmless.
Like, yeah,
I'm not
right.
too
Like,
much.
go fuck yourself. Go. Yeah, right.
And
Yeah.
so I try to be very open with the conversations about it and like the dangers of it, things that I've gone through, but also recognizing that the social media world I grew up with is different than what they'll have growing up.
Yeah.
And one of the things, if you guys have not seen this yet, AI influencers. Have you seen them?
What?
No.
This shit is horrifying. I will have to share an account that I've been made aware of. But there's these influencers, and their accounts have, hundreds of thousands of followers, and they look. I'm not kidding you. I understand I'm 33 and like more on the older side for some people in terms of like understanding AI. When I tell you these AI models look so real, I showed them to Cassie, I showed them to my daughter, and I was like, look at this Instagram model. And she's flipping through, and I was like, she's AI. And she's like, are you, my 13-year-old was bamboozled by it.
Wow.
They are so hyper realistic.
That's
And
horrifying.
it's horrifying because we had Photoshop.
For
But
sure,
there's
yeah.
still limitations to it. The girls today are now going to grow up competing with literal fake people.
Well, and like predators don't even have to go search for an image that you can find in a reverse image search on Google. They can just create basically a new avatar. That's really scary.
The catfish abilities will increase. I mean,
Yeah.
the abilities to scam in so many ways will increase. It gets harder as AI gets better to feel like when I look at these accounts, I'm like, knowing it's AI and looking at it, I can kind of see that it's like the person's a little too shiny or something.
Yeah. But also people use so many filters. Like, how would you know?
Yeah. When you're just flipping through Instagram as fast as most people do, you would never know. And they even post stories that are like real pictures of like the outside world. So
are you for me to like really screw up your brain?
Yes.
I took a class in college with my philosophy degree called The History of the Future.
Ooh.
And it was going all the way back to like books and then to like the beginning of movies like Soylent Green and stuff of like how people used to fantasize about what the future would look like.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that right this second, we are recording our podcast and you were talking about these things right now because it's such a fascinating snapshot in history too, because you're talking about yourself being like an older millennial, right? And like social media being so different for even our kids that are coming up. But imagine when we're like 80, like 50 years from now, and what these topics that we're talking about. And like, that's whenever, you sit there and like, all that's going through my head is like, I've got to stop posting pictures of my kid online. But like, because like I'm starting to see people that are literally like not adopted babies, like their babies, like blurring out the picture or not posting their kids or like having those things. And that's, but I mean, gosh, like those are the things that like, that's the stuff that goes to scare me. Like when you're talking about like it being terrifying, is like what all we have terms and agreed and serviced ourselves away to. And like having, and like the necessary evil of it all.
Yeah. I mean, there's there's nothing to do about it other than learn and be cautious. And yeah, it's just, I can't even imagine. I have so much compassion for the elderly in this world right now who went from like not having color TVs to like, there's AI influencers now, Mima.
Yeah.
That's
I
wild.
know. Yeah.
And it scares me to think what that will look like for us in our 80s.
What do you think about like, I wonder, I don't know if it's just me in my life. And then like because of the circle that I'm radiating out and like building in, that is just like echo chambers and all things, but like this overarching respect for our elders that seems to be going, and like wanting to pull stories out of their heads and understanding and wisdom. Like that's been like this huge kick of mine. But I'm wondering if that is a little like, if that continues, like that progresses, because those times before and those human experiences before are going to become more and more valuable as it goes, like to have like the collective experience archive to pull from. Oh man, oh gosh, oh man, I love this rabbit hole, but this is
quite the rabbit hole.
Oh
yeah,
man.
so I think that it also, that is the other thing. Almost all of my decisions come down to, oh, this would be really good to model for my kids. Of like, hey, mom is not doing social media on Sundays at all. And not so much that they, like, you think your kids don't notice, but like your kids notice that you're scrolling on your phone, even while they're playing. Like Ezra's over there playing a video game, but like he knows what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they'll notice when I'm not doing that. And they definitely notice like if I'm doing a puzzle instead or whatever. And like, or especially if you're not fully present, like sometimes they want to play Monopoly for the third time that day. And you're like, okay, in between turns, I'm just going to check my Facebook messages real quick. And it's hard because sometimes that is business.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I also like that you just brought up puzzle, because I know that's like Katie's thing. Like I know Katie loves puzzles.
And just got her new little puzzle mat.
Yeah. From her super attentive husband who loves her.
Mr. Katie.
From Mr. Soup. Mr. Soup. But yeah, no, I was just thinking about that though, because like with my stained glass, like I'm proud of myself in the past year, like the times that I forced myself out there, and I leave my phone most of the time when I go, and I set a timer. Or I love it whenever I don't, and Jonathan just comes to get me, like truly, like such a gift. But fuck
Puzzles.
Thank you. But that's something that I can do inside. And so Liv is seeing it, and then she can participate in it with me. Because I've invited her to come out to like my creative space with me, because like what she does is mobile and she hasn't. And so like this is something that I can do more in her face, because like I don't want to force her out there to see me doing it. And like that's something that like I just been mindful of lately. I'm like, wow, like is she actually noticing like these things that I'm being intentional about to make my life better? Because like I want you to, but like kind of pointing it out to a 9-year-old is too much. Like her brain can't handle that.
Yeah, like Ezra, think that she discovered it.
Yeah, and it's the kind of like consistent pattern as they grow up, and as most adults will when they're young adults, they'll probably not do it themselves. It's that they'll have it as a tool once they grow and their frontal lobe starts to finish developing, and they're like, I recently found this website. I got to send it out, but it's called youfeellikeshit.com. And it's basically this super simple little website, and it's a questionnaire that it just like one at a time goes through based on what you answer. So it'll say like, have you had a glass of water in the last 6 hours? And you say yes or no. And it'll say, okay, go drink 1 cup of water and then come back. And then you can say, okay, I've done that. I still, keep going. It'll say, okay, have you gone for a walk? Have you seen daylight? Like it just goes through all these super simple things that like to be a functional human you need. And I just love it so much.
That's genius.
And it goes a really long time, because I was just curious. So I was just clicking, each answer. I was like, yeah, I've done it. Keep going. And it kept going.
Wow.
So
it turns you into your own Tamagotchi.
Your own little Tamagotchi. So it's stuff like that I think, once the kids are grown and they're like, oh, my mom was right about some things. I am on my phone too much. I do feel like shit. I'm going to put it down and do a puzzle like my mom used to do.
Yeah. Love that.
That's what
Thanks.
But I do love, like, Shane will sit and do a puzzle with me, mostly because it irritates him how long it takes me to do a puzzle. I'm so slow at puzzles. I'm like 8 pieces a day.
Yeah.
And so he'll sit, I mean, and he's really good at puzzles, so he'll get most of it done and I'll come in and do the last piece, kind of deal.
Like, look
I
at
love
what I
that.
accomplished.
So, but it's nice, especially like a snow day. The kids just want
Yeah.
to end up on their technology, and like the adults just want to end up on their technology. But if you can just spend, I mean, it's like Bluey. Like they always, say like, oh, don't feel bad about how great the parents on Bluey seem because the episodes are only 12, 15 minutes
7 minutes.
long.
Yeah.
So they're really only playing with the kids for 7 minutes. And it's like, if you did that every day, if you set 10 minutes aside to be super intentional about participating with your children, then you'd be doing a great job.
Yeah.
But then you also like, that's kind of, once you're doing it, you're like, that's such a low amount of time and you can increase it from there. Not all
You
the time. 'Cause
can.
You have days when you're working and days that you don't feel good and like whatever.
I think the other thing though is like it's that time of being intentional and then also understanding that they're cognizant of what you're doing in the rest of the time.
Yeah. And that it all comes full circle when they grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when we get there.
I know. I cannot. You guys don't understand how much I am fucking counting down until those kids are in their college dorms eating ramen for the fucking 15th time, going, I really miss my mom's cooking. And I'm like, yes, you do.
I literally had that conversation for the first time yesterday with someone, and I was like, man, Liv's gonna have it so hard. No idea.
No idea.
I've got to do something about this.
Yeah. I don't know if I told you guys this story, but every Sunday that the kids are with me and not at their dad's, I do homemade fried chicken. And I will usually, because I've already got buttermilk, I'll make buttermilk biscuits. And they're really good. I've been making this shit for so long. I've gotten really good at biscuits. So one week I made these buttermilk biscuits and the kids will eat some of it. They like the fried chicken, but they will only eat a couple bites of the biscuit. And then one day we're sitting there and Cassie goes, have you ever seen those, that bread that like comes in a can, those biscuits that come in a can? And I look at Shane and he just shakes his head at me. And later, I don't say anything. I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen those, whatever. They go to bed and I come in and I see Shane and I go, I know she didn't mean anything by it, but that kid just told me she prefers canned Pillsbury biscuits to homemade biscuits. Crazy talk. So yeah, you have no idea. I'm like giddy for them to go to college.
Oh, Ashleigh. I hate that for you, but I get it. Kids are such assholes.
They are. And it makes you all of a sudden, when your kids are being an asshole to you, you're like, oh,
Liv did that an asshole too sometimes. She did that to me last week though. It was like, and I was like, but you just suck it up, man.
Can't react because I'll just do it more.
Oh yeah. Well, I love that. I love that you brought that example back too, like with the puzzles all the way around. Cause to me, that's just like a small everyday, like all of these little things that you just talked about are all the every little day things to just keep going no matter what. And that's why I think last night I said just impacted me so much. And Sheila, like I said, shout out to her for seeing it because I didn't even recognize it as all of that. So love you guys. It's great to check in. Look forward to next week.
Come and watch us again next week. Boop-a-doo.
Boop-a-doo.